Okay, the three Pāti Māori MPs have begun their suspension. The co-leaders for 21 days, Hana-Rāwhiti Maipi-Clarke for 7 days, but they're squealing racism. That's because we're Maori, they say. They were always, of course, going to say that. Being the martyr suits their fight. So, is the penalty harsh? My panel of Maurice, Williamson and Sturt Nash will join me very shortly. Welcome to the podcast.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, good evening with Editor-in-Chief. I'm Duncan Garner. Welcome. Nice to see you. Good evening. And please subscribe. If you just hit the subscribe button there, most helpful, keeps us around for longer. This is the perfect result, isn't it, for Te Pāti Māori? The focus remains on them. They like to be front and centre as they head into the wilderness with a pay cut. They can cry victim, and they have, but they broke the rules. They refused to then show up as well. They thumbed their nose at the process. 3 MPs who have been punished for that. No one turned this into a race thing except for them. It was just a privileges committee banning them from Parliament. Who said race? They did, because it suits them. Only one group is playing the race card here, and it's them. My panel will join me very shortly. Let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, so Te Pāti Māori have not struggled for visibility this term, have they? They're everywhere. For a party that has not made one significant policy announcement or even one decent gain for Māori, they've hogged the headlines with their haka, their swagger and their defiance. The TikTok poster boys, the Instagram addicts, and this 3-week ban plays right into their hands, into their narrative. They love it. They deserve to be booted for the 3 weeks, I say. They've showed utter contempt for the rules of Parliament and shown utter contempt for the process of the committee handing out the punishment. This is not about race. This is about 3 people who so arrogantly thumbed their nose at the system. They broke rules. Then they made a joke of the place and ridiculed everyone and everything in it, in the Parliament. For that, they have been sent packing, but it's only the Māori Party who have turned this into a race thing. They think they've been targeted harshly for being Māori. No, they're being targeted harshly because they broke the rules. Doesn't matter what colour they are. It's nonsense. A lot of the MPs didn't want to ban them. They hoped that they would show the place enough respect that they could find some sort of mid-ground and walk away with a warning. But Te Pāti Māori, no, they want to be on show. They want to throw their arms in the air and scream colonisers and racism and oppression. And on cue they did. It's Te Pāti Māori that turned this into a race war.
Talking about scribbles on my face, cowboy hats, and I wear this hat as an acknowledgement to my grandfather and the many crows that went to fight in the Great Wars. C Company were known as Ngā Kaupoi, the cowboys. This is why I wear this hat. And I took the hat off my grandfather's coffin. So now you know. And the scribbles on my face represents the many of our ancestors that have been the victim of state-sponsored terrorism from this house. This punishment is not about noise control or standing orders. It is a warning shot from the colonial state that cannot stomach Indigenous defiance. You can bench my body from this house for 21 days, but you will never bench our movement. Tangohia mai te taura I taku kaki, kia waiata I taku waiata. Take the noose from around my neck so that I may sing my song. The silencing of us today is a reminder of the silencing of our ancestors of the past. And it continues to happen today. 21 days of silence. You've traded the noose for legislation.
Winston Peters did his best to unsettle them. Peters now has an open contempt for Te Pāti Māori, and he made it really clear in Parliament.
In the last poll, in the last 24 hours, the one in the cowboy hat who hates colonialism, the one that's shouting down there with the scribbles on his face.
Labour and the Greens voted against the ban, and they've jumped into bed with Te Pāti Māori. And you know what? They say if you make your bed, you've got to go and lie in it. Labour will be nervous about this. Labour, I think they've done the wrong thing. And Labour's misread the room. And they'll be watching the polls closely on this. I can't imagine siding with Te Pāti Māori will earn them one more vote out there in the community. Hipkins needed to kick their ass to touch. He's wimpy for not doing so. And that's why they will roll him in good time. No doubt about that. Labour has confirmed in this debate it's so extraordinarily out of touch with the mainstream voters. Because while Te Pāti Māori have some support amongst Māori, it's not universal at all. And many Māori are now voicing those concerns. And Te Pāti Māori have basically overstepped the mark. And it's not going down well amongst all Māori communities. Not at all. Te Pāti Māori have their usual stirrer, Takatu Ferris, do the heavy lifting. This man must take the daily prize as the most snooty, sneering, unlikable Māori MP in the place. Although Peters taunts him for being mostly white. I mean, Ferris is a fierce debater, and he doesn't really care or realise how disliked he is. I don't think he gives a stuff. He just goes for it.
Therefore, I say to this House, you can only keep your head buried in the colonial sands of time for so long. And by the way, high tide is fast approaching. You see, deep down, under layers and layers of intergenerationally refined colonisation and assimilation, this debate is about the eternal struggle for the survival of the Māori people and the survival of those people as Māori.
But Willie Jackson gave the Te Pāti Māori MPs a bit of a wake-up call. And this is what I'm hearing too. Not all Māori support the tough guy approach from Te Pāti Māori. And Willie Jackson said, you know, you guys, you're not that well supported.
I know it's hard to apologise, but I want to say to Te Pāti Māori, not every single Māori in the country supports you. And they don't support some of the strategy. They love you, I love you. But some of the stuff is not going down well.
The ban won't affect them that much, though, I don't think. Parliament is not sitting for a couple of weeks. And so the ban won't have a huge impact. I mean, the other thing is that Te Pāti Māori MPs, they have a dreadful attendance record anyway in Parliament. So who would really know where they are most days? I mean, almost the 21-day thing means they have to come back in 3 weeks. That probably annoys them. There is some suggestion they would actually keep some of their salary as well, and only a fraction of the money might be docked. I mean, there's one law in Parliament that says if you are sent out, only 10% of your pay can be taken. Now, that may well be relevant in this case. Rob Muldoon was sent out in the 80s, 87, for 3 days, and not 1 cent was docked from his pay. So there's still confusion around this. It's a shame. They need to be put in their place on this. But still 3 weeks, it is the most significant ban ever in the history of the place. And in the end, the whole thing was managed for them for maximum impact. They managed this themselves. They wanted this result. But make no mistake about this, they're not hurting. They're not victims here. They've wasted so much parliamentary time when we should be putting this country back on track and trying to get things sorted out, pass laws to make it easier to do business and to earn money. We have wasted so much time on them. It's like they're just caught in front of a full-length mirror and they can't walk away from it. But their voters aren't dumb and they want progress, and this is hardly progress. All this does is remind us how backward-looking the Māori Party really is, clinging on to the past in the hope of getting a better future, where Pākehā are sidelined because they're so rude about white New Zealanders. Good luck with this one, guys, because the silent majority have had enough. And I think you underestimate their fight and their desire for this to be a great and united country. You may have just met your match, I reckon.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so Stu Nash, former Labour MP, Labour Minister, and Maurice Williamson, former National Party MP and Minister, and now current Auckland Councillor, join us now to discuss what's happened in Parliament this week, of course, with the Māori Party ban and the allegations and the odd creepiness around Christopher Luxon's former Deputy Press Secretary, who has been caught secretly filming sex workers and women against their wishes and without knowing. G'day, guys. Nice to have you on.
Good evening.
Hello, Maurice. What do you make of it? 21 days for two of them, a week for the other. There's a recess of 2 weeks, so they wouldn't be there anyway. Plus, their record's a bit average and scratchy anyway. I don't know. Is this much of a punishment?
Well, I thought Winston made one of the most phenomenal points yesterday in the House. He said he is the most travelled ever foreign minister, and he's away all the time. I think he's done 59 countries since he's been a foreign minister this time round. And he said, and yet I've actually spent more days in Parliament than the Maori Party added together, all of them.
Yeah.
And he's away all the time.
Yeah.
And then I thought the funniest thing was they didn't want to be suspended before the budget so they could participate in the budget, and then they didn't show up when the budget was presented.
Yeah. And the other thing is this will force them to come back to Parliament in 3 weeks for two of them anyway. With Maipi-Clarke, Sturt, it won't affect her at all. She's only a week away and it's a 2 week recess. You won't even notice.
Yeah, that's true, but it is the principle. And the thing I say is, and you know this, Duncan, and Maurice obviously knows this, but a lot of your listeners won't. Around the walls of the debating chamber are a whole lot of wooden plaques with the names of battles that New Zealand soldiers fought and died in to preserve democracy. For me, it is a place of great respect, and these guys have treated it with the ultimate contempt. And so I have no problem with the principle of 21 days. You are right, it doesn't impact on their attendance in the House because of the recess week, but I think it sends a very, very clear message. You treat the place with the respect that it deserves, otherwise you will face the consequences.
Yeah, and Maurice, they wanted this. At every stage, at every turn, they have gone that way rather than the right way because they wanted to get some action. They wanted to get in front of the cameras. They wanted to get some controversy. They wanted to stick out there on TikTok and everything. They chose this path, didn't they?
Well, absolutely, and what I just about was throwing up this morning was mainstream media. TVNZ Breakfast are going, listen to what they were saying. This was because the government wouldn't allow the haka to be done in Parliament.
Bullshit.
Now, the haka has been done in Parliament so many times because I've been there for them. If there's a treaty settlement finished, often they're invited to do a haka or sing a waiata or whatever, but it's arranged with the Speaker's office. It's timed and you can start that at 10 minutes to 6 when the final vote is done. But they never let anybody know other than somebody. They let the media know they were going to do it. So it was absolutely all staged. They expected it to be the chaos. They've bought on what they are. But I've just asked Stewie a quick question before you came online to it. Are they going to have some of their pay, maybe all of their pay deducted for that time? But are they entitled to the perks of Parliament? Because they're saying they're going to spend the 21 days travelling around the country, whipping up, opposition to the current government. But are they entitled to have free air travel for that time that they're suspended?
I think they are. From what I can gather, and I've done some work on this morning, I think they can still have their transport. They can still have their offices outside of Parliament, and they can go to those. They just can't come into the parliamentary complex, and their pay is suspended, but only to a certain level. There's one law that I read this morning that says they can only get docked 10% of their pay.
I thought if you get named like this, it's 100% of the pay. But the other thing also...
Well, Muldoon never got a pay cut. When he was out for 3 days, he got nothing. They didn't touch his pay.
The thing is, back to the principle on this. I mean, Maurice got thrown out of the House because he didn't wear a tie. Rawiri sometimes looks like he's going to a Hawaiian fancy dress party. He wears a hat, he wears a Hawaiian shirt, he wears sneakers, he wears jeans. And Trevor Mallard started this. Trevor Mallard said, okay, from now on you don't have to wear a tie, and the standards have fallen dramatic. I would like to see Jerry Brownlee, as the Speaker of the House, bring some of these standards back. And this isn't an Te Pāti Māori thing. It's not an anti-green thing. It is returning the dignity and respect to the House that I think it deserves. And I actually think most New Zealanders expect. What we're seeing at the moment is you have said, Duncan, as Maurice has said, is these guys are treating the place with contempt. It's a social media platform for them. It's not what New Zealanders expect. And I don't think, quite frankly, they're doing their constituents any favours at all.
So who turned this into a race debate?
I always like to give the contrary to these particular debates and say, okay, what if a white woman went on to a marae, walked in and sat in the front row, which is against protocol and not allowed, and then just walked up to the microphone and took the mic and started speaking? Now, there are incredible protocols on the marae for meetings and so on, for a hui. And anybody that goes to a marae should observe those protocols because you're in their place and it is your role to observe them or just go.
Yep.
But they want that protection for themselves and their culture. But then they come to the Parliament and say, we don't care what your rules are, we're not going to observe them.
Yeah, it's arrogant. It's arrogant, it's defiant, and it thumbs their nose at Pākehā and Westminster system. Helen Clarke tried that, Maurice. Helen Clarke tried that at TT Marae in 2000, I think it was 4. She tried to get up and speak. She was sat down and told to shut up, and she cried.
Yeah, but to be fair, that was the rules of the marae at the time. And if you are going to go onto a marae, because I've done so many hui on marae for Maori broadcasting way back in the early 90s, I think Winston and I together, he was Minister of Maori Affairs, I was Minister of Broadcasting. I think we did 33 hui on various maraes from as far north as way up in Northern, which was Hana-Rāwhiti's one, and right down to the bottom of in Invercargill. But we were told what the protocols were. We were told what we could do, what we couldn't. We could say what and you abided by them because you were on their turf.
Yeah, of course.
And it was their rules.
Of course, and you respect
That's how it should be.
But let's get back to the point. Parliament is not a Pākehā institution. Parliament is a New Zealand institution, and there have been Māori MPs in there for almost as long as our Parliament has existed. So to say that this is their thumb in their nose at a Pākehā institution is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And in fact, there has never been a Māori politician who has treated Parliament with such contempt that these guys have. So I would never characterise this as Te Pāti Māori behaviour as representative of Maridom, but nor do I characterise the Vacant Chamber or Parliament as a Pākehā.
Look, I was at a New Zealand junior Māori rugby league tournament in Rotorua over the weekend. My son used to play rugby league, doesn't now, concentrates on rugby, but he went to support his old team, under 15s. So there were thousands of Māori there, okay? And I was standing out like a bit of a beacon. And a couple of my mates said to me, "Watch your back, mate," after what you've been saying recently. And I said, "I'm not worried." I said, "I want to walk around there proud because I know I'm standing, and I bet you I stand with a lot of those people." Do you know what? I got not one bit of abuse. I had a number of people come up to me and say, "Yeah, mate, yeah, good on you. I've been listening to your stuff, and I reckon you're probably right." Yeah, we don't stand with this sort of shit. They're New Zealanders as much as they are Māori. These people that came up to me. They want to be good citizens, you know?
Common sense will always prevail in these debates, and everyone knows when someone's trying to have the system on and be a smart-ass. And what they did, they didn't tell the Speaker, they didn't tell the Clerk's office, they didn't tell the whips.
Yep.
They went in and did it, but they had warned the media in advance, and they did it deliberately for the coverage they could get, and then yelled and screamed when they said it wasn't fair. The other thing was not attending the Privileges Committee.
Yeah.
And I think I've given you this analogy before, but I'll say it again. If you're playing for a rugby league team like the Warriors, you get cited by the referee and sent to the judiciary. You say to them, "I'm not coming." Guess how many more rugby league games you'll ever play in your life.
Well, what if you leak the decision? But then you go and leak the decision as well, Maurice. You leak the decision. It's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But the other thing we've got to also remember is the Māori Party are there, I thought, to represent their constituents. And Māori are way overrepresented in the bad stats and underrepresented in the good stats. There is fertile ground for a very effective party to work inside the system for the people that they represent. And they, by going on TikTok and talking about the Privilege Committee is not representing the best interests of their constituents or Maridom in any way, shape or form. I think it's pretty disgraceful. And the other thing that really disappoints me is Willie Jackson standing up and saying to Pāti Māori, "I love you guys, but apologise." Labor should be distancing themselves from these guys because they are electoral poison.
Yep. I agree entirely. This is a disaster for Hipkins and Labor. Labor needs to read the room. The room out there, Middle New Zealand is saying, "No, thank you. You are poison and you're toxic." Labor's just driven the nail into their own coffin on this. They've just said, "Yep, we're with you guys. Te Pāti Māori, we're with you."
Yeah, and of course what their only other alternative is the loony Greens, who are into trying to save a planet that they don't even live on.
Yeah, I know. When was the last time they spoke about the ice melting? So so they're going to be away for a couple of weeks. No one will even notice. They've kicked up a song and dance. Will this play out well for them long term though? Will this play out well for them? They're the defiant party. They're the ones that this guy Tucker Te Ferris. I mean, is there a more unlikable MP in the New Zealand system right now than Tucker Te Ferris?
No, that green guy, Brendan Boyle's up there. I would argue, but the thing is that there is a fringe. They have a small constituency. There's no doubt about that, but they do not represent wider New Zealand. I don't believe, and I can't say this with having done it in Poland, but I very much doubt they represent the views of wider Maridom. But I've got nothing to
I'm with you. I agree.
But I don't think this will play out for them in terms of getting the sort of vote that Winston and is looking at. But there's a small constituency that likes this sort of behaviour. They may win a couple of seats next time.
I think Māori are embarrassed. Stu, I think Māori are embarrassed. I think they're embarrassed to be associated. Most Māori are embarrassed to be associated with this.
Well, I would have thought they would be, and I'll tell you why. Because I worked with the previous Māori party, Peter Sharples, Dame Tariana Turia.
Yep.
They came to Cabinet Committee almost every day with a new idea about things that would benefit Māori in their day, what would help them in the welfare system. The whole whānau ora stuff was about trying to make sure there weren't 7 different government cars in a driveway on any one day, but there was a coordinated. They were desperately keen about outcomes for Māori in the schools. How did we lift participation in education? I actually sat there sometimes quite fascinated and said to both of them, Sharples and Turia, I learned a lot, and I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
What this rabble that looks like an unmade bed down the far end of Parliament, What they raise every day is just them. It's about them, and they're going to fight you and they hate you and so on. Where are the solution spaces? What are they doing about trying to help Maori, who less people in prisons and more coming out of the schools and so on? Doesn't seem to be
Name
on
the policy.
their radar.
Name one thing they've achieved for Maoridom. I mean, apart from bringing that noose into Parliament too, that's pretty highly questionable too. But I think that's ugly.
Duncan, it's a little bit like the Greens. The founders of these parties believe that they can achieve more for their constituency by working within the systems.
Yep.
Within the system. It was the same, as you mentioned, Maurice, with Pita and Tiriana. It was the same with Jeanette Fitzsimons and Rod Donald. And those guys really made a difference because they were focused on what they wanted to achieve, and they held various governments to account. And I would argue that they did make a difference. Both the Greens and Te Pāti Māori have morphed so far away from their founders' vision that I think that they do their constituency more harm than they actually do good, and no government will ever listen to them. So your ability to affect change is pretty much zero.
I want to bring one more thing up.
If you take the doctor's wife in Karori, who is worried about the planet and feels I'm going to at least give my party vote to the Greens because they're going to save the planet. I want to ask that same doctor's wife in Karori, you okay with the defund the police and all that sort of shit that they're into? I mean, it's just appalling.
Yeah. No, they have gone so extreme, so activist and so separatist, both those parties. The Greens are doing anything the Maori Party says. That they have left the planet, and they've left the lounges, and they've left the houses of New Zealanders, of New Zealand voters. I mean, they really are so extreme now. They're right on the fringe. More fringe than they've ever been, I reckon. And they're angry and they're nasty and it's bile, and I think New Zealanders are switched off. Just before we go, the Prime Minister's office have had an incident this week as well where the Senior Press Secretary, or the Deputy Senior Press Secretary has resigned because of, recording sex workers and recording women who didn't know that they were recording. It's pretty sort of awful stuff. I can't believe, though, Maurice, I'll throw this... Oh, no, actually, I'll go to you, Stu, because you're the most recent police minister. I can't believe that the police chief didn't tell the minister in a no surprises approach in his office, which was then elevated to the Prime Minister. This has been around for a year or so. I can't believe it.
I'm like you. I am very surprised that someone in power wasn't told about this. I'm also surprised when I read the allegations that the police, that there wasn't enough there to prosecute. I suspect that there probably was, even though, I mean, I don't want to talk on behalf of the police, but goodness me, that any guy, any Kiwi that read about what this chap did is pretty horrified. This sort of behaviour, it's not grey, it's way, this is very black and white, and it's way below the line. But I'm with you. There has been a complete lack of communication here between DIA, between this chap, between police and the police minister, and certainly between someone in the Prime Minister's office.
Public interest overrides privacy, surely, because this is a guy working with all these clearances for the Prime Minister of this bloody country. So he's getting all sorts of access and all sorts of things. He was a grub. And that's the one thing I can say that I can get away with. I mean, this guy, I think, should be in court. Yep. Look what he did.
Duncan, all I can say is my ghast is completely flabbered.
Yeah.
Because how do you take two phones into a brothel, record people, and then go off for a shower while the madam takes your phones and you give her your PIN numbers and she can search through your phones? I mean, he'll have emails on there about budget stuff that's coming up, or he'll have emails about the trip to India or whatever. You would have thought that there would have been just an absolute, I don't go near any of that stuff while I am in the PM's office. He might have done that while he worked for Stuff for 10 years. I guess you can't have any say
no doubt. No doubt.
But when you're in the PM's office, you just got to say, I now have to behave. I now have to...
The PM should have known. The PM should have known a year ago.
But I thought it was illegal to record people without their knowledge.
No, we're
one person must know.
We're a one-person nation, so as long as one person to the thing records it. So you remember our national guy in Southland who got in trouble for recording his electorate agents?
Yeah.
He left the recording in the recorder in the room, But if you want to record a conversation between you and somebody else, and you are the one that can consent. Some countries it's the two-party consent. New Zealand is only one.
Well, I'm still uneasy about this. I mean, what the police have done here, they've said there's nothing, not enough here, there's nothing that's broken the law. Well, if you're standing outside a woman's house and filming in the window at her, are we now saying that this is legal behaviour? Are the police say that go, and all you mean go and do it? Because without a sanction...
There's got to be something about illegal. Taping videoing a woman changing when she's half naked without her consent, I mean, okay, maybe he wasn't on her property, but there's got to be something illegal.
He was on her property.
If there's not, then we need to change the law.
I think Laura McClure's from MACT has got a bill, a private member's bill, already in the ballot, and I think she's hoping that it'll be picked up by the government about illegally filming people from a distance doing things that you're through a bedroom window or whatever. But I think the next thing will be you'll have to include audio in that too.
Yeah. Now, but see, if this was Helen Clarke in office, that would have got back to her. It just would have. She was one of those. It was one of those governments. You know, it would have got back to her. Even John Key's government probably would have got back to him. Why didn't it get up the chain?
We had to call the chief of staff the second anything that was a problem that you knew for your staff or you or another minister that you were dealing with, and Wayne would just be straight on to what the hell's going on. Get up here. I want to know. PM's got to be briefed. The no surprises was just so hard fast. And for this not to have come to, well, I would have thought to the Prime Minister's office directly, but at least via the Minister of Police's office, there's something really weird about that.
Stu, does the police chief, when you meet them as a police minister, whatever, once a week or whatever, do they give you that no surprises stuff?
Well, there's always a no surprises policy, and it's very effective. I never had an incident where there was a staffer or an MP that had behaved in an untoward manner. That no, maybe there was. I'm just thinking about it. Maybe there was a couple of incidents. Obviously, actually there was. I can't relay them obviously in public. But the thing is I've talked about this recently. That under certainly Helen Clarke and John Key were both formidable prime ministers, right? But and very different style, as we both know, as your audience knows. But the reason they were so good is because they had chiefs of staff who were exceptional.
Yeah.
Helen Clarke had Heather Simpson, John Key had Wayne Mapp,
Wayne Eagleson.
Wayne Eagleson.
Wayne Eagleson. And both Wayne and Heather were exceptional. And even Raj Nana for Jacinda Ardern was very, very good. I get the feeling that Christopher Luxon's office is incredibly mediocre, and that may be
you're right.
A compliment.
You're right, Stu. You're bang on. And Maurice, you said this last time around the management of the pay equity stuff, Stu. Remember that?
Yep.
It was a shambles. And I reckon he's lacking experience and lacking all sorts of brain power, but political nous in there.
If you have really good political management before anything breaks into the media, it almost has nothing to it as a story. If you don't, it just becomes an absolute cluster of stuff pouring out and you didn't know and couldn't manage it, and then another bit leaks out and then someone else. All I can tell you is Wayne Eagleson was just razor focused on anything because how do we fix it? What do we do? Get that done. Bring him in. Bang, bang. You shut up or you're gone.
Yeah,
it was phenomenal management.
And well, Heather Simpson would have pulled out your fingernails, Stu, one by one.
But again, but the thing about Wayne and Heather is both of them were staffers in opposition.
Yeah,
yes.
And Reece Senior as well. So they understood how Parliament worked, but they also understood the need for making sure that your comms were spot on, that risk was managed very, very tightly. And most importantly, that their prime ministers were protected in a way that Luxon just is not protected at all.
No, I
agree. And he's been exposed a number of times now, and he's got away with it so far. But there'll be a time when he can't, and because there's always issues coming across the PM's desk, and the next time might not be so lucky. And I reckon he needs to really look at this going into election year, Maurice.
Yeah, his team need to providing him with cover so he can get on doing his job rather than him putting out the bloody bushfires all the time.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Always brilliant. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay, cheers, Maurice. Thanks, Jerry.
Bye.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, that is us for today. Thanks for your feedback and support. Get in touch with our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, or flick us an email at duncan@rover.nz. If you can subscribe, please do. Pass it on to your friends, share it amongst your friends, and let them know we're around. But I really enjoy the feedback, and I also appreciate, when I'm out and about, people come up and we talk about the podcast. And it's getting quite common now, so thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. To my team, he might just be a touch shady today after the radio and podcast awards last night. I've never known him to have such little energy. In fact, you can't even see him. Isaac, kill on you, mate. We'll do it again on Monday, in a couple of days' time. Remember, life is no dress rehearsal. There's no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, so get out and enjoy it. If you're Isaac, early night, mate. Have a great night. Take care. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.